They say your life flashes before your eyes before you die. Mine was interrupted by silver ones. It was raining again. The kind of rain that makes the city feel like it's bleeding light. Neon smeared across wet pavement, steam rising from manholes like sighs from some unseen beast. I stood on a narrow alley off 3rd and Marlowe, finishing the last strokes of a mural no one paid for, but I had to finish anyway. Bright colors clung to the brick wall like memories. A pair of hands reaching for the sky. My hands, maybe, or someone else's. I never knew until it was too late. I took a step back to admire it. And that's when I heard the footsteps. Too fast. Too close. Phone. Wallet. A voice barked, shaking with adrenaline more than anger. I turned slowly. Kid. Maybe 20. Hood up, hand trembling around a knife. Okay, I said, my heart thudding like it wanted to punch through my ribs. Easy. Just easy. I handed him my phone. The wallet took longer. My hands were cold, or maybe just stupid. He started shouting. The knife came closer, and then... He wasn't alone. A shadow moved behind him. Too tall. Too still. Too... wrong. The kid turned, just for a second. I saw it too. Something hulking, humanoid, with curved horns and... silver eyes. And that's when the knife came down. Not on the kid. On me. I didn't even feel the pain right away. Just the cold. Then the world tilted. The bricks sliding like melting ice. The mural dripping into black. And those eyes, I saw them again as I fell. Silver, glowing like moonlight trapped underwater. I died with them staring into mine. No, really, it whispered. Tiny voices brushing past my ears, unintelligible but curious. The sky above me was lavender. Not sunset lavender. Not filtered Instagram lavender. Real, unnatural. Holy shit, where the hell am I lavender? Like the inside of a dream I wasn't supposed to remember. And the air, God, the air was too much. Sweet and thick and heavy like I was breathing through syrup. But it filled me. Every breath made my heart ache, my skin buzz. I sat up fast and immediately regretted it. The world spun, and with it, nausea. Gravity didn't feel quite right. Then I saw him. He stood a few feet away, arms crossed, watching me like I was an unfinished painting that didn't please him. Tall, impossibly tall, dressed in dark clothes with silver clasps that looked like bone, hair black as oil, and the horns, curved, sharp, beautiful in a terrifying way. And his eyes, silver, not like metal, like a storm caught behind glass. You're awake, he said. His voice was low and flat, emotionless, a voice that could have belonged to a judge or a gravedigger. Where? I blinked. Where the hell am I? He didn't answer. Instead, he stepped closer. I flinched. You were dying, he said. I stopped it. That was you? I scrambled backward on my hands, the grass hissing in protest beneath me. What the hell are you? What is this? Am I dead? Is this what, hell? Purgatory? A really vivid coma? No, he said. It's in between. He crouched, eye level now, not threatening, not kind either, just watching. Your soul was breaking apart. I took it before it could vanish. You're here because I brought you here. I stared at him. Cold blooming under my skin again. You took my soul? I saved it. I laughed. It came out brittle, like glass cracking. Okay, cool. So now I'm your soul pet? You gonna put a leash on me next? No, he said simply. But your existence is tied to mine now. That shut me up. I looked around again. The trees in the distance glowed faintly. The air shimmered like heat over pavement, even though it was cool to the touch. None of this made sense. None of this was possible. And yet, I was here. Okay, I said slowly, trying not to freak out. Say I believe you. Say this isn't some dying dream. Why me? Why would you save me? He didn't answer right away. Instead he stood, towering, otherworldly. I had my reasons, he said. You'll remember. Eventually. Remember what? But he was already turning away. I scrambled to my feet, dizzy again. Wait, no. That's not how this works. You don't just say cryptic demon shit and walk away like this is some fantasy drama. He turned back slightly. One silver eye met mine. You asked who killed you. My breath caught. He nodded. I know. I took a step forward. Then tell me. If you're so noble, so damn heroic, tell me who did it. His expression didn't change. I can't, he said softly. Why not? Because, he said, and something flickered in those silver eyes, something that might have been sorrow, if demons felt anything at all. You're not ready for the answer. The cabin was built into the side of the mountain, all stone and silence. The windows glowed with golden light, soft and flickering, like it came from a fire that never quite burned out. Outside, the wind howled like it was searching for someone it had lost long ago. Inside, the warmth was too calm, too still, like a trap disguised as comfort. I sat cross-legged near the hearth, my fingers curled around a mug of something hot and herbal. Not tea. Not anything I could name. It smelled like rosemary and lightning. Across from me, Leo leaned against the wall with his arms folded. Watching, again. Always watching. I don't belong here, I muttered. You don't belong anywhere else anymore, he said. I set the mug down harder than I meant to. You're really good at this. The comforting demon routine. I'm not trying to comfort you. Then congratulations. Mission accomplished. He didn't react. Of course he didn't. I was starting to wonder if he even could. Let me get this straight, I said, standing now, pacing over the smooth stone floor. You pulled my soul out of the afterlife, which I assume is against some big cosmic law. He gave a slow nod. Yes. And then you, what? Stuffed it into a new body? No, he said. Same soul, same body. Time and matter work differently here. You're stabilized, I echoed bitterly. Like a broken chair. Silence. And then, you were unraveling. Pieces of you were already fading when I found you. I stopped pacing. So you saved me out of pity? No. Then why? He looked at the floor, jaw tight, like he was fighting something inside himself. Then quietly, because I couldn't watch you disappear. My chest clenched. Something inside me twitched. An echo of something too deep to name. You didn't answer the important part, I said after a moment. What am I now? Some kind of soul puppet? You said I'm tied to you. Yes. Explain. He moved away from the wall, stepping into the firelight. The flicker made his horns gleam like polished obsidian. There are rules, he said. When a soul is claimed outside its time, it becomes tethered to the being who intervened. That tether links your existence to mine. Great, I muttered. So I'm your cosmic pet. His eyes flared, but he didn't speak. That told me everything. I laughed once. It sounded like it belonged to someone else. You realize how messed up that is, right? You didn't ask. You just took me. I saved you. That doesn't mean I belong to you. He flinched then. Just slightly. But enough to make me feel like I'd struck him. I never said you did, he replied, lower this time. Not like that. I turned my back to him, trying to steady my breath. The walls of the cabin were covered in runes, etched into the stone like veins of glowing ink. They pulsed softly, in rhythm with something. Maybe him. Maybe me. Maybe both. There was a small table near the window, with a set of parchment, brushes, and pigments that shimmered like they were alive. Leo had told me I could paint if I wanted. I hadn't touched anything yet, but now my fingers itched. I picked up a brush and dipped it into a dark blue pigment that glimmered like stars. I didn't know what I was painting until it was already half finished. A pair of hands, reaching again. This time, they weren't reaching toward the sky. They were reaching toward a horned figure cloaked in shadow. The moment I finished the line connecting them, the paint moved. I gasped and staggered back. The figure in the painting tilted ever so slightly, as if turning to face me. Leo was at my side in an instant. Stop. But I couldn't. My hands were shaking, and I didn't know why. My heart pounded like I was running from something I couldn't see. He reached for me, his fingers brushed my wrist, and the world cracked, not around me, inside me. In a flash I saw chains, my knees on stone, a circle of fire, my own voice sobbing, "Don't do this, please," and him standing just beyond the flame, his face blank, but his hands were clenched into fists so tight they bled. He stepped into the fire, wrapped his arms around me, and whispered, "I'm sorry." I jerked back with a cry, stumbling away from him, crashing into the chair behind me. My breath came in ragged gasps. My vision swam. "That wasn't real," I whispered. "That wasn't mine." Leo's voice was quiet. "It was a memory." "No," I said, shaking my head. None of that happened. Not to me." His eyes were soft now. Too soft. "I hated it. Not in this life," he said. I pressed my palms to my eyes. The image was still there, burned behind my lids. Chains. Fire. His arms. It hurt to remember. And yet, it also felt like something sliding into place, like finding the first puzzle piece of a picture you didn't know you were building. I sat on the floor, back against the wall. "Why do I feel like I've known you forever?" Leo didn't answer right away. Instead, he turned, walked to the door, and opened it. Cold wind rushed in. He stood there, silhouetted against the lavender sky, and said, "You'll remember more when it's time." And then he stepped outside, leaving me alone with the painting. It was still glowing, still moving. And for some reason I didn't understand yet, I didn't want to look away. The city was loud with color. Everything in the artisan district buzzed with life. Floating threads of silk rippling like water, stalls shaded by glowing awnings, paints that shimmered under shifting light. The streets were layered like patchwork, stone alleys rising and falling like waves. Even the rooftops were walkable, winding like stairways between buildings. And in the middle of it all, me, a newcomer, a stranger, a breathing question mark. I stood beneath a canvas umbrella at the corner of a busy square, selling my work for coin I didn't yet understand. My paintings weren't like the others, less practical, more emotional, dreamlike, strange. Still, people came. They looked. Some lingered. Fewer bought. But it was something. Leo stood nearby, pretending not to watch. Arms crossed, cloak pulled tight around his broad shoulders. He never said a word, but the way people avoided the space around him was hard to miss. The whispers followed him everywhere. "That's the horned one. Don't meet his eyes. He destroyed a whole village once." I tried not to listen. Honestly, I was trying not to think at all. Because every time I looked at Leo, really looked, something inside me twitched. Like deja vu sharpened to a blade. I wasn't ready to bleed yet. "Excuse me?" I blinked, startled. A boy, maybe 14, stood in front of my table, holding a tiny pouch of coins in trembling fingers. His eyes were gold-flecked, too large for his face. "Could you, draw me? Just a sketch." I hesitated. "Like a portrait?" He nodded quickly. "My mom says it's silly, but I want to see myself the way others see me. Not just the horns." I looked closer. Small, almost delicate, curling back under his hair. Barely noticeable, unless you knew what to look for. "Sure," I said softly. "Sit down." He beamed. As I began sketching, I let instinct guide me. I didn't overthink, just shapes, lines, feelings. But the moment I shaded his eyes, something shifted. I blinked. The sketch on the parchment wasn't just him. His pupils were slitted. His mouth curved with something ancient and feral. His hands, longer than they should be. It was still him, but it wasn't. The boy stared at the image, confused. "That's strange. I kinda like it though." "Sorry," I muttered, reaching for a new page. "Let me try again." "Remy on." Leo's voice. Low. Dangerous. I turned. He was staring at the drawing, shoulders tense. Before I could speak, someone behind the boy scoffed. "Shouldn't let one of them draw kids," said a squat man in a dyed apron, arms folded. Leo stepped forward. "Say that again." The man flinched. "Hey now. Just saying, demon magic and kids don't mix. He's not even licensed to paint here." "Leave," Leo growled. The cobblestones beneath him cracked, faint lines spreading like spiderwebs. The boy bolted. The vendor did too, but not before tripping over his own basket and scrambling like a kicked rat. People cleared the area fast. No one wanted to be close when Leo got like this. I didn't either. Not because I feared him, but because I didn't, and that terrified me. Later, in the quiet of our rented room above a dye shop, I sat on the floor surrounded by discarded sketches. My hands trembled. My breath wouldn't settle. I didn't even know what I was crying about. Maybe the boy, maybe the portrait, maybe the fact that my art had never felt so alive. Or so wrong. I didn't hear Leo come in. But I smelled him. Smoke, rain, something faintly electric. A cup appeared in front of me. Steam curled up. Not tea again. Something else. Warming. I took it without a word. He sat beside me, his weight pulling the wooden floor just slightly. We didn't speak for a long time. Then, quietly, like he was afraid of scaring the words away, he said, "It hurts me when you're like this." I looked at him sharply. "You mean you care?" He didn't blink. "I mean, I feel it. When you're in pain, it echoes. Because of the bond," I said flatly. "Yes. But also, because it's you. That did it." The tears came again, hot and helpless. "I don't even know who I am anymore," I whispered. "Every time I draw, something takes over. I see things I shouldn't. I feel like a ghost of myself." Leo didn't try to stop the tears. He didn't tell me to be strong. He just sat with me, still, present, and somehow, it was enough. Later, as I lay in bed, half asleep, I whispered into the dark, "You're always watching me, protecting me. Like you owe me something." Silence. "Do you?" More silence. Then, so quiet I almost missed it. "I made a promise once," he said. "To someone who looked at me like you do." I turned over, heart pounding. "Who?" He stared out the window, eyes catching the moonlight. He didn't answer. Of course he didn't. But for once, I wasn't angry. Just curious. And afraid of the answer I was getting closer to every day. The dream didn't start like a dream. It started like a scream, metal against stone. My knees scraping rough ground. My own voice echoing off walls that felt too close and too far, all at once. And then the chains, heavy, cold, wrapped around my wrists like they belonged there. I looked up, and the world blurred with light. The walls around me weren't made of brick or wood or even reality. They pulsed, like the inside of a star caught between breathing and breaking. A circle of fire blazed around me, flickering high enough to brush the unseen ceiling. I should have been afraid. I should have run. Except I couldn't move. Not because of the chains, but because he was there. Leo. But not the Leo I knew. This version of him was monstrous in a way I couldn't describe. Taller, broader, darker. His skin shimmered with obsidian undertones, and his eyes burned gold instead of silver. His horns were longer, spiraling backward like thorns. But it was still him. I knew it was him. He stepped into the circle. His face wasn't blank. It was twisted. In rage. In pain. In regret. "Please," I whispered. "Dream me," whispered. "Please don't do this." He reached for me. I flinched. And then he knelt. His hands found my shoulders, shaking, and then his arms wrapped around me. The fire didn't burn him. The chains melted away. And I broke, sobbing, screaming, clutching him like I had done it before. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I'm sorry I let them take you." And then the world shattered into white. I woke up on the floor, sweat soaking through my clothes, my throat raw, my fingers clenched so hard my nails had left half-moon dents in my palms. Tears streamed down my cheeks. I couldn't breathe. The cabin spun around me, glowing runes on the walls pulsing like they were reacting to my panic. And then, footsteps. Leo was suddenly there, crouching beside me, not touching, but close. I curled away from him instinctively. I didn't know why. Or maybe I did. He didn't reach out. He didn't say my name. He just looked at me for a long time. Finally he said softly, "You weren't supposed to remember that." I laughed bitterly, still shaking. "Then maybe don't leave the door to my head wide open." He didn't react, as always, but there was something in his face, like shame mixed with inevitability. He stood slowly. "You're safe now," he said. "It's over." I sat up, wrapping my arms around my knees. "Was that a dream?" He hesitated. "Not exactly." "Then what was it?" "Memory," he said. "From a life you haven't lived in this body." My breath caught. "But I felt it," I whispered. "I remembered it. I was there." Leo nodded once, then turned away, his silhouette framed by the still open door. There will be more. 2 days later, the Artisan District held its monthly exhibition. The square buzzed with music and lanterns and food that tasted like sunshine and cinnamon. Artists from every guild presented their newest works, and for once, I didn't feel like an outsider. I was invited. My painting stood on an easel draped in dark fabric, in the center of a half-circle of lanterns. I hadn't looked at it since I finished it. Hadn't even wanted to. But now, as I pulled the fabric away, the breath caught in my throat. The piece was titled, "The Man with the Broken Mask." It showed a figure standing in shadow, face half covered by a cracked porcelain mask. The other half revealed anguish carved into sharp features, silver eyes blurred with tears. Behind him, fire. All around him, chains. It wasn't a literal scene from the dream, but somehow, it was the feeling. The same pain. The same guilt. People stared. Some leaned closer. Some looked away like it physically hurt them, and one woman said with a shiver in her voice, "I don't know why, but I feel like I've been there." A man whispered, "It's like the moment before a confession, right before someone breaks." Another murmured, "It's not a painting, it's a wound." I stood frozen, watching them feel something I couldn't name, watching my pain become theirs. And then, I felt him. Leo. I turned and saw him at the edge of the square, watching silently from beneath the shadow of a crimson banner. He wasn't glaring. He wasn't tense. He just looked hollow. I didn't know how, but I knew the painting affected him too. Our eyes met for just a moment. Then he turned and walked away. He didn't wait for the exhibit to end. He disappeared into the crowd like he was never there at all. That night, I sat in the studio alone, staring at the now covered canvas. I could still feel the dream. The heat of the flames, the weight of the chains, the arms that held me like I was worth something, even when I didn't believe it. I should have felt triumphant. The painting was a success. The gallery had even offered to buy it. But all I felt was emptiness. Not the empty kind that comes from loss. The kind that comes right before you remember everything. The path to the Demon's Rift wasn't marked on any map. It was carved by regret. I followed it anyway, out past the walls of the city, beyond the edge of the enchanted woods, and down into the gorge where even light hesitated to stay. The air grew hotter with each step. The grass browned. Stones cracked underfoot. And then the mist began. Red. Dense. Humming with something ancient and alive. Like blood and fire had made a deal and decided to hide here. Whispering to anyone foolish enough to enter. I didn't care. I was already trembling with too many things to be afraid. Leo had vanished after the exhibition. Not a word. Not a trace. But something in my gut knew where he'd go. And when I found him, I was right. He stood alone in a clearing of jagged black stone. The mist coiling around his boots. In front of him, an old, half-shattered statue. A woman with no face. Hands outstretched. Her mouth carved open in a silent scream. I stopped several paces behind him. My voice cracked as I spoke. "You brought me back to life." He didn't turn, You saved my soul, tethered it to yours, gave me a second chance. Still, no movement. I swallowed hard. My hands balled into fists. But before that, you killed me. Leo's shoulders tensed. Then, quietly, he nodded. Yes. I took a breath that burned. I saw it, I said. I remembered it. The dream, the fire, the chains. It wasn't just a vision. It was my death. He finally turned. The silver in his eyes was dim, hollow. A sky without stars. I was summoned, he said, by a mage who didn't understand what he was calling. I was barely formed when I crossed into your world. Raw magic, instinct, rage. I couldn't control it. You chose to kill me? No, he said. But I didn't stop it either. His jaw clenched. You were walking by. Wrong place, wrong moment. I stared at him, searching for something. Guilt, apology, anything. But what I saw was worse. Shame that had taken root. Grief that had turned into something quieter, colder. I watched you die, he said. And when they banished me back here, I remembered your face. I tried to forget it. I couldn't. His voice cracked then. I searched for your soul, for years in your time. I knew I had no right. But I found it drifting, unraveling at the edge of what comes after. He stepped closer. I didn't bring you here to fix what I did. I know I can't. I brought you here because I couldn't lose you twice. My chest twisted painfully. You chose me, I whispered. You chose me after you destroyed me. Leo nodded. Yes. I backed away, my vision blurring. And you thought that made it right? No. His voice was sharp now. Nothing makes it right. He moved toward me again. Slower. I'm not asking for forgiveness, Remy. I don't deserve it. The sound of my name in his mouth made me ache. I just wanted you to live. Even if you hated me. Even if you never remembered me at all. I wanted you to live. I shook my head, tears slipping down my cheeks. You ripped me out of my world. You tied me to you. You killed me. And now you want points for not doing it twice? No, he said. I want nothing. The mist thickened, swirling like smoke reacting to our voices. I wake up every day feeling your pain, Leo said. And I accept it. Because it means you're still here. I stared at him. This impossible, broken, beautiful creature who had stolen my death and called it mercy. I thought I was going crazy, I said. Every time you looked at me like I was someone you already lost. Every time I felt something I couldn't explain. I thought maybe I loved you. Leo flinched. But now, I don't know what I feel, I whispered. I don't know who I was to you, or what I'm becoming. He didn't answer. He didn't have to. The wind picked up. The cracks beneath our feet glowed faintly with red light. Magic stirred. My hands trembled. My heart did too. I need space, I said, barely able to speak the words. Leo lowered his head. I understand. I'm not saying I hate you, I added quickly, and I didn't know if it was to soften the blow or because it was true. I'm saying, I can't carry both our pain right now. I'll wait, he said. And something about the way he said it, without expectation, without hope, broke something in me that had already been cracked too many times. I turned and walked away. The wind howled after me. But he didn't. He just stayed where he was. A statue beside the faceless one, waiting in the mist. I didn't leave the studio for 3 days. Not to eat. Not to sleep. Not even to think. Only to paint. The vision wouldn't leave me. The one I'd buried in the corners of my mind since the truth shattered everything. It haunted me. Not in fear, but in need. It begged to be let out. To be seen. To exist. So, I painted. I painted like I was bleeding. Like every brushstroke was a confession. Like the canvas could take the weight I couldn't carry anymore. At the center of it all was Leo. Not as I saw him now. Not as the composed, unreadable demon who haunted the edges of my life. But as he was in that memory. Broken and burning and clutching a lifeless body in his arms. My body. His face in the painting wasn't beautiful. It wasn't monstrous either. It was human. Wrecked with guilt. overflowing with something that almost looked like love. I worked until my fingers cramped and my vision blurred. Until the paint blurred into something shimmering and alive. Until I felt him again. Not just the weight of what he'd done, but the weight of what he'd tried to undo. When it was done, I couldn't speak, so I let the canvas do it for me. The open-air gallery welcomed everyone. Painters, poets, spellweavers, story singers. It was a celebration of expression, held once every season beneath the sky that shimmered with stars even at midday. I hadn't planned to attend, but when I walked into the square carrying the painting, heads turned. Something in the air changed. I didn't even have to announce it. The gallery curators took one look and silently cleared space in the center of the stone circle, as if they knew it needed room to breathe. I propped the canvas on the stand, uncovered it, and waited. At first, nothing. Then, gasps. Soft ones, sharp ones. A child began crying without knowing why. A woman clutched her chest and whispered, "I felt that. That loss." Someone else said, "No, it's not just grief, it's love. Love that came too late." The magic in the air rippled. You could feel it. The painting wasn't just an image. It was a wound made visible. A portal, made emotional. A memory not just mine, but everyone's. It resonated. Because at some point, we all held something we couldn't save. I stood back, barely breathing. And then, I felt him. Leo. I didn't have to turn. His presence was unmistakable. A shift in the air. A tension I had known in my bones across lifetimes. But this time, it was different. When I finally looked, I saw him at the edge of the circle. He wasn't cloaked in shadow. He wasn't trying to hide. He stood in the open, unarmed, exposed. And his face wasn't cold. It was reverent. He stepped closer. People moved instinctively, parting for him like he was something sacred. And when he reached the painting, he didn't speak. He just stood there, silent. And then he looked at me, not like a monster, not like a god, like a man waiting for a verdict he knew he didn't deserve. "I came because I felt it," he said finally. "The pull. The weight of your truth." I didn't speak. My throat was too tight. "I don't want redemption," he continued. "I'm not here for forgiveness." He stepped closer. "I'm here because even after everything, I still want to stand beside you. Not as someone who owns your soul. Not as the one who broke you." His voice cracked. "But as the one who believes you saved me. Because you did." A hush fell over the gallery. Even the air listened. "I will never deserve your trust," he said. "But I'll earn your presence. Every day. If you let me." I stepped forward. Slowly. Carefully. "I'm not ready to forgive you," I said. "Maybe I never will." He nodded once. No flinch this time. Just acceptance. "But I feel something," I added. "And I don't want to run from it anymore." I looked down at my hands. They still shake. "When I think of what you did," he looked down too. "But they also stop shaking," I said, softer now. "When you're near." His eyes met mine again. And for the first time, they weren't glowing. They were open. "I don't know what this means," I whispered. "It means you're still here," he said. "And so am I." We stood there, two pieces of something once shattered, now trying to rebuild. Not to erase the past, but to live with it, to carry it together. That night, the gallery lights flickered long after the crowd had gone. The painting stayed where it was, untouched, unclaimed. Because some truths aren't meant to be owned, only witnessed. The house we built wasn't perfect. It leaned a little to the east. One of the doors creaked no matter how many times Leo tried to fix it. And the kitchen window refused to close all the way when it rained. But the view? The view was perfect. Every evening, as the sun began to dip below the edge of the Violet Valley, I sat on the wooden porch with a mug of something hot and unpronounceable, barefoot, paint still drying on my fingers. And Leo, quiet as always, would join me with his own cup and say nothing at all. And I loved him for that. Not in the way stories taught us to love, Not with burning declarations or dramatic sacrifices, but with being, with silence, with time. It had been 3 months since the gallery. 3 months since I chose not to forgive, but to stay. We didn't speak much about the past. It hovered there between us sometimes, like morning mist over the hills. But we let it be. We breathed through it. And little by little, it became less of a shadow and more of a shape. Something we could live with. Together. Leo built the gallery himself, by hand, without magic. He said he wanted every beam, every nail, every window to carry intention. Magic is too easy, he told me once, standing with a plank balanced on his shoulder. This teaches patience. I think it also helped him feel real, like penance made with wood and sweat. As for me, I painted landscapes now. No demons, no fire, no grief given form. Just skies, fields, faces that smiled instead of screamed. It wasn't about forgetting. It was about choosing what I gave power to. And each painting was a choice. That evening, the sky was streaked with gold and soft lavender. The wind smelled like sun-warmed stone and something sweet in bloom. Leo stepped onto the porch carrying 2 cups. He handed me mine, then lowered himself onto the bench beside me with that careful, grounded grace he always had. We sat in silence for a while. Then I leaned my head against his shoulder. He stilled. Then, slowly, relaxed. I closed my eyes, listening to the rhythm of his breathing. It grounded me in a way nothing else ever had. And then, softly, I spoke. I still get scared sometimes. Leo didn't move. Not like before, I said. It's not the kind of fear that makes me run. Just something quiet that settles in when it's too dark. When I remember how it felt to die. His breath hitched. I continued, but more than that, I'm afraid of losing this. Of waking up and finding none of it was real. His voice was rough when he finally answered. It's real. I nodded. I know. But my soul still remembers the burning. He turned slightly. And what else does it remember? I opened my eyes, looking out at the golden valley below us. It remembers being held, being seen. Even when I didn't want to be. A pause. Then, softly, I added, it remembers you. Leo exhaled slowly. You once said you didn't forgive me. I nodded. Still true. He didn't flinch. He just asked. But you stayed. Why? I smiled faintly. Because you didn't ask me to. Because you didn't try to erase what happened. You just made space for what could happen next. I felt his hand move, brushing lightly against mine. Not taking, just offering. I laced my fingers through his. Because, I whispered, you taught me to live again. Night deepened around us, painting the sky in shades no human world had ever held. The valley pulsed with quiet life, glowbugs drifting in the tall grass, songbirds calling from trees made of silver bark and deep green light. Everything shimmered, as if even the world had started to breathe easier. I turned to look at Leo. His face was calm now, softer than I'd ever seen it. Not because his features had changed, but because I finally knew what lived behind them. Not just power, not just guilt, but hope. Hope that had been buried under centuries of silence, and finally, dared to come forward again. I squeezed his hand gently. Promise me, I said. He looked over. What? That you won't vanish. Not this time. His thumb brushed over my knuckles. I won't, he said. Not unless you ask me to. I won't. Then I'll stay. We sat like that for a long time. 2 souls tied together, not by force, not by debt, but by choice. And when the stars blinked on overhead, slow and quiet and patient, we watched them in silence. Hand in hand. Alive. Together.